What's a simple, super clean joke that makes everyone laugh whenever you tell it? I'll never forget my dad's face when I gave him his 50th birthday card. Tears in his eyes as he said to me, "One would have done." You know. There's a fine line between fishing and standing on the shore like an idiot. A father was washing his car with his son and the son asked, "Dad, can't you just use a sponge?" During a funeral service, a gentleman approaches the grieving widow and says, "Excuse me, may I say a word?" "Yes, of course," she says. The man gets up and says, "Plethora. Thank you." The widow sobs. That means a lot. One day, a police officer pulls a car over and sees the back seat is full of penguins. The officer tells the driver, "You can't be doing this. You need to take these penguins to the zoo." The next day, the police officer pulls the same car over again and says, "Hey, I told you to take these penguins to the zoo." The driver says, "I did. And today I'm taking them to the movies." Larry was an old piece of lasso who steps into a bar one day for a drink. The bartender looks at him suspiciously and says, "Hey, pal, we don't serve ropes here." Larry steps outside, ties himself into a clove hitch and unravels one of his ends into a feathery mess. He goes back inside and in a low voice says, "Beer, please." Bartender says, "Hey, aren't you that rope who was just in here?" Larry replies, "No, I'm afraid not. A friend of mine is an agnostic. Dyslexic insomniac. He stays up all night long wondering if there's a dog. I invented a new word today. Plagiarism. Two fish swim into a concrete wall. One turns to the other and says, "Damn. What do we want? Low-flying airplanes. When do we want them? NNNEEEEOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOO What's the best thing about Switzerland? I don't know. But the flag is a big plus. Q. What did they give the guy that invented the door knocker? A. A Nobel Prize. What's a duck favorite snack? Quackers. I really like this one. Not because it's a pun. But because I'm stupid and think the word quackers is funny. The joke could literally just be quackers and I'd laugh. An English couple have a child. After the birth, medical tests reveal that the child is normal. Apart from the fact that it is German. This, however, should not be a problem. There is nothing to worry about. As the child grows older, it dresses in lederhosen and has a pudding bowl haircut. But all its basic functions develop normally. It can walk, eat, sleep, read and so on. But for some reason the German child never speaks. The concerned parents take it to the doctor, who reassures them that as the German child is perfectly developed in all other areas, there is nothing to worry about and that he is sure the speech faculty will eventually blossom. Years pass. The German child enters its teens. And still it is not speaking. Though in all other respects it is fully functional. The German child's mother is especially distressed by this, but attempts to conceal her sadness. One day she makes the German child, who is now 17 years old and still silent, a bowl of tomato soup, and takes it through to him in the parlor where he is listening to a wind-up gramophone record player. Soon, the German child appears in the kitchen and suddenly declares, "Mother, this soup is a little tepid." The German child's mother is astonished. "All these years," she exclaims, "we assumed you could not speak. And yet all along it appears you could. Why? Why did you never say anything before?" "Because, mother," answers the German child. "Up until now, everything has been satisfactory." Me. Hey, want to hear a ghost joke them? Yeah, sure me. That's the spirit. It will either make them laugh or shake their head, no in-betweens. This grasshopper walks into a bar and the bartender says, "Hey, I have a drink named after you." The grasshopper looks confused and says, "You have a drink called Irving?" A priest, a minister, and a rabbit walk into a blood bank. The rabbit says, "I believe that I am a type O." Guy 1. "I slept like a baby last night." Guy 2. "Oh, really?" Guy 1. "Yeah. I woke up every 2 hours crying." What does a thesaurus eat for breakfast? A synonym roll. You. Knock knock then. Who's there? You. Control freak, alright. Now you say, control freak who? Guy standing alone at the edge of a cliff yelling out 14. 14. 14. Over and over again. Another guy comes up, "What the? Dude? Why do you keep yelling out 14? Come over here. I'll show you." So the guy walks up to the edge and peers over. And gets shoved off the cliff. Now the first guy yells out 15. 15. 15. A Mexican magician announced he would vanish on the count of 3. Uno. Dos, and poof, he was gone without a trace. These two guys are standing on opposite banks of a river. The first guy shouts to the second, saying, "How do I get to the other side of the river?" The second guy replies, "You are on the other side of the river." A priest, a rabbi, and a lama go into a bar. The bartender yells, "What is this? Some kind of joke?" A guy goes to the eye doctor. He says, "I have trouble seeing things at a distance." The doc takes him over to the window, points up to the sky, and says, "What do you see up there?" The guy says, "The sun." Doc says, "That's right. So, exactly how far do you need to see? Dude? What's big and green and will kill you if it falls out of a tree?" A pool table. Went to a zoo. But there weren't any animals except a dog. It was a Shih Tzu. Why are pirates so salty? They just arrrrrr. Then the follow-up, what's a pirate's favorite letter? People almost always say R because of the last joke, R. You'd think so. But it be the C. Dash. Deliver in pirate voice for extra points. I have 2. 1. Why did the ancient Egyptians like to keep their heads shaved? To be more pharaoh-dynamic. 2. Where does the general keep his armies? In his sleeveys. Passing a cemetery. Do you know how many people are dead in that cemetery? All of them. People love that joke every time I tell it casually. Long but worth it. Honestly. It's funnier the longer you make it go on. A sweet young lad has decided to ask a cute girl at his school to be his prom date. He heads to her locker after class and is startled to see a line of 5 other boys all waiting for their chance to ask her. Not to be dissuaded. He steps into the end of the line and waits. One by one they are rejected and he gets his chance. She says yes. The next day he goes to the florist to order her corsage. It's prom season, so the shop is packed to the brim with customers doing the same. He waits in line for an entire hour, but eventually he gets what he came for and heads home. Later that week, he remembers he still needs to rent a tuxedo. He calls the formal clothing store and is on hold for 45 minutes. But eventually gets through and is able to claim a tux to be picked up that evening. When he gets there, the parking lot is full and there is a line out the door. He has his order number in hand and queues up with the rest of the students. After 2 hours he eventually gets what he came for and heads home. Prom night has arrived and he realizes he hasn't made arrangements for the limo to pick up his special gal and himself. Panicked, he calls the number listed on the website and is unsurprisingly met with a busy signal. The clock is ticking, so he tries again. The company expected this surge in last-minute rentals and is managing the calls as best as they can. He is next in line to be served, and after a wait he is able to book the luxury vehicle for that evening. Tuxedo. On. Limo. Arrived. Date. Corsaged. Prom. Here they come. They pull up to the school and join their classmates in the decorated gymnasium. It's a truly magical evening and everything is just as it should be. His date looks beautiful and he is so pleased with how everything came together. Just before the dancing starts, she tells him that she is very thirsty. He is a gentleman and offers to get her a drink. He gets up and heads over to the concession tables. There is no punchline. What time did Sean Connery go to Wimbledon? About 10ish also. How do you throw a space party? You plan it. What's the difference between Saudi Arabia and Abu Dhabi? The people in Saudi Arabia don't like the Flintstones. But the people in Abu Dhabi do. Before you read this, I'd like to say I'm not religious, I just think this is funny. Jesus was sitting with some of the disciples. Jesus: hey, did you guys know that my dad is God? Disciple: no way. Jesus: Yahweh. There was a boy and in his room he used to have loads of posters of tractors, he loved them. Until his 18th birthday when his dad bought him a sports car. He ended up falling in love with them instead and replaced all the posters of tractors with sports cars. One day he was out a drive and seen a building on fire. There was fire engines everywhere and people in shock. The boy walked over and told the firefighters to stop shooting the water. Once they did, he took a deep breath and blew out the fire. When he was asked how he done it, he said, "It's easy. I'm an ex-Tractor fan.